Well, the World Cup has reached a fever pitch across Canada. It's breaking records in popularity. Over 21 million Canadians tuned into the first 4 days of World Cup coverage alone. But a soccer fever brought on a national identity crisis in a place long called Hockey Nation. Canada is hockey. Or at least that's the unwritten code. But that code might be out of date.
To the area, to Higuain, score!
The ground looks like it's shifting beneath our skates. Of kids who play sports in Canada between the ages of 5 and 14, only 22% of them play hockey. Nearly double that, almost 43% of them play soccer.
Now we're selling the soccer in this time of years more than the hockey.
Now, history is on the side of hockey, but the future may be decided in the eyeballs of fans right now. Look at these numbers. An average of 2.7 million Canadians watch the Stanley Cup Final Series.
And there's Balotelli!
But the first round soccer match between England and Italy, 2.8 million viewers. So, are we breaking the ice on Hockey Nation, changing and morphing into Soccer Nation? To get a perspective on that, we've gathered a panel of 3 experts on soccer. Dwayne De Rosario is a Canadian soccer player currently playing for the Toronto FC. Nigel Reid, CBC sports broadcaster and analyst. And Martin Rennie, former coach of the Vancouver Whitecaps, joins us from Vancouver. Good to see all of you. Nigel, I want to get to all this, but before we do, we've got to talk about what happened today in the World Cup and that absolute smackdown that the Germans gave the host country, Brazil. Did anyone see this coming, this 7-1 victory?
Well, nobody saw that opening game between Spain and Netherlands coming, and if nobody saw that one coming, this was off the charts, absolutely off the charts, astonishing. I'm almost speechless at what I saw, but I have to say Brazil committed what I would describe as soccer suicide.
Why?
Because their defending was horrible throughout.
What did you make of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, I'm with Nigel. I never saw this coming. I just feel bad for my player that used to play with, Julio Cesar, you know, because I know there's no one that wanted more than that guy. And to see those goals go by him, I mean, he didn't really have a chance in any of those goals. But, you know, you have to give credit where credit is due, and Germany was very clinical in every aspect of the word. Defensively, they were solid. Midfield, they were solid. Attacking-wise, they just picked Brazil's defense apart.
Martin, any words from you from this epic collapse on the part of Brazil?
Yeah, well, it's one of the biggest shocks in the history of the World Cup. You know, no one can believe it, and just watching it was amazing to see what was happening. And it just shows, you know, in soccer you have to be playing in the moment, and if you're not, if you start thinking about, oh, what happens if we lose, or what's going to happen to my family, or what happens if we don't win this tournament, suddenly it's all over. And that's what happened for Brazil, and it was hard to watch.
Well, it's quite a tournament we've had. All right, let's go to what this tournament may mean, Nigel. The viewership, as I said, has been huge. More kids playing soccer than playing hockey. Is this just about everyone's keen on the World Cup because it's every 4 years, or is this a tipping point, a turning point toward Soccer Nation?
It's a little bit of, it's the World Cup. And let's not forget, this is the one global championship once every 4 years. So part of the appeal is in its rarity. It is the one true global World Cup. There are other World Cups. They have them in hockey, they have them in rugby, they have them in cricket. But this is the one championship where you've got more than 200 countries just trying to qualify for the finals. When we get to the finals, that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. Only 32 nations ever get there, and now we're down to the final 4. So wherever you're from, around the world, from every corner of the planet, the chances are you're going to support somebody. There's a team for everyone.
There is, but when you play in front of Canadians, you're a Canadian soccer player, and for a lot of people, you say, you know, soccer is that second, third-tier sport in Canada. But do you sense it's moving into that first tier, maybe even challenging one-day hockey?
I definitely think so. I think we're starting to see the numbers start to, you know, drastically progress in terms of the attendance, especially at the youth level. I think there's no getting away from the fact that hockey is a cornerstone of Canadian sports, but they also can make room for another one. And I think that being soccer, especially how multicultural and diverse our community is. You could just look at the streets outside Toronto and see the passion of people watching the World Cup, little Portugal, little Greece, little Brazil, and all these areas. I mean, the passion is there and it's in the city. So I just want to hopefully trickle some of that passion towards our national team as well.
Martin, where are you on this in Vancouver? Do you sense that it's about the World Cup, or do you sense that maybe it's about soccer in general?
Well, soccer's getting much, much bigger in North America in general. I mean, when I first came over to North America, people didn't even know what the World Cup was. That was in 1994. People thought it was a boat race, and I was there watching the World Cup with them. So it's changed a lot, and the media have completely transformed how soccer's viewed in this country. And not only is our MLS games available, but you've also got the English Premier League, and many other soccer leagues around the world are being shown on a regular basis. So there's many kids who are out there playing in the streets, playing on the fields, playing in the parks. So it's no doubt it's growing, and the fact that it's just so globally available on the internet, on television, it makes a big, big difference.
You know, you think about who's watching, okay? Now, this isn't interesting. There's a lot of criticism about hockey being very expensive. Now, my kids play hockey. It's an expensive sport to play. And you know, the leagues are expensive, the equipment. But look at the demographic shift, and I wonder if demographics tells a bit of the tale. I want to show you a board here about Canada's population and how it's changed. Canada's foreign-born population represents 20.6% of the total population. That's the highest proportion among G8 countries. And Asia, including the Middle East, was Canada's largest source of immigrants during the past 5 years. Immigration from Africa, the Caribbean, Central and South America has also gone up. And look at this, by 2031, 1 in 4 Canadians will have been foreign-born. In other words, Nigel, many new Canadians are not from countries that have the kind of winner that we have here. They may be from soccer-loving countries. Does demographics determine the future of soccer in Canada?
Well, I think volume also determines the future of soccer in so many countries. I mean, if you look around the world, as Dwayne was saying and Martin was saying, with the exception of North America, soccer is the #1 sport just about anywhere else on the planet. You know, enough said as far as that is concerned. And of course, when it comes to the World Cup, part of the appeal of the World Cup is about that sense of belonging, that national identity. People love to decorate their cars, dress up their dogs, you know, and wrap themselves in the flag, you know, because old habits die hard. So that, of course, is part of the appeal of the World Cup. And then, of course, as Martin was talking about, it's so important from a sporting perspective that the media gets hold of it and makes it available. If somebody tells you a sport is important often enough, then eventually you'll believe it. It's a form of brainwashing.
When you grew up, was it hockey or soccer for you?
It was soccer. In my community, everyone knew what the World Cup was. Everyone was supporting the World Cup, their countries that they came from, and you know, that was the game in the community. No one really thought about when we did play hockey. It was floor hockey. So you know, the passion behind the sport is there. Now it's just, you know, building on that passion, building facilities and building avenues, which TFC, which Vancouver Whitecaps, and which Montreal has done and starting to do in terms of tapping into the youth.
That's fascinating. Your parents immigrated from
Guyana.
Guyana, right?
Correct.
So you're saying your family, your community, it was all soccer, not hockey.
All soccer. My uncles played soccer. My brothers played soccer. I grew up kicking, and I came out my mom kicking, never stopped.
You're still kicking. Martin Rennie, what do you say to that?
Yeah, well, Canada has a great opportunity here to really capitalise on the desire that people have for soccer. And to be honest, I've taken a lot of time in the last few months to really analyse it. And the reality is, unless youth soccer changes within Canada, unless the structure changes, unless there's more private enterprise, unless there's a proper curriculum handed down by the CSA, then soccer's going to miss an opportunity in this country. And yeah, it could compete with hockey, but it's not going to unless there's a complete restructuring of the system.
Nigel, pick up on that, because we're a soccer-mad nation to some degree, but we have no team in the World Cup. But you look at, we're in the golden age of tennis, Raonic, Bouchard, the golden age to a certain extent of basketball, Andrew Wiggins drafted first in the NBA. What about soccer? What's holding us back?
Well, it's a developmental issue as much as anything, as Martin just touched on, and he's absolutely right about that. I see a lot of the big youth soccer clubs, not all of which have a senior expression in terms of a competitive team, but they have 15 or 20,000 members, and a lot of those coaches are volunteer parents, coaches, and essentially that's not good enough. That's not going to produce professional soccer players like Dwayne and his teammates.
Dwayne.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, like I said, there is avenues like TFC, like Vancouver Whitecaps, like Montreal, but there needs to be more also outlets. I think it's the same old scenario when you get to a certain age, be it 14, 15, a lot of the kids just say, where do I go to next? But, you know, it's easy to point the finger, but, you know, something I have done is, which I'm looking to start this fall, is to start an academy and provide opportunities for those kids, especially in the Scarborough, which was very rich in terms of building a lot of talent. Dive back into those nooks and crannies, those environments, get those kids playing soccer again, and provide them an opportunity and a platform where they can shine their talent, because there's no getting away that Toronto does have talent, and it's time to put them in an environment and put them in good facilities where they can grow.
Last question about soccer. One of the things that really astonishes me watching the World Cup is the connection it has to nationalism. And I think you mentioned it, Nigel, the flags that people wave, the streets across the country. Check out these expressions of their support for people's country.
I got to support everything that my family stands for.
We are so happy, and we think that football in Costa Rica will be better from this moment.
We will know where our country is in Europe. That it exists.
There's a saying in my country that goes "Asembi Roba," meaning something is coming, and it's the Black Stars that are coming. So you better watch out.
Extraordinary to see that. I mean, some of these folks have immigrated, but some of them, it's their parents' country of origin, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, and yet there seems, Nigel, to be this connection between nationalism and this dual identity of Canadians.
Yeah, and that is unique. And I'll tell you one thing, I love watching the World Cup in Canada. I've been fortunate to see 3 now in my 10 years here, and it is wonderful to see a global festival of soccer celebrated in the right way, because you can't go to European countries, Central American countries, South American countries. You go there with the wrong flag and you're in trouble. And that, to me, is such a wonderful thing about this wonderful multicultural country.
Yeah, I wonder if Canada gets a team that may challenge some of those flags. But what do you think when you see all those flags, people cheering for their countries of origin or their family's country of origin?
It's great, you know, and I can say I'm very passionate. I'm always proud to play for my country. I'm probably the most devastated not being in Brazil playing right now, but it's nice to see people embracing their country.
Martin, when is Canada going to have a team in the World Cup?
Well, can you imagine just how much soccer would grow if Canada did have a team in the World Cup? It would be incredible. You can only imagine what the streets would be like and how much it would grow. I honestly think that it's a long way off just because of how the system is currently set up. I don't think it's that difficult to change it. I believe that by getting things right at the top and changing some of the governance, getting a proper curriculum, a proper system in place, Canada can do it. They produce fantastic athletes, they've got great facilities, they know so much about sports science, nutrition and so on. They do great in so many sports all around the world. They can do it in soccer, and for me, I would love to see that happen, and I'm hopeful that it will.
I think Martin Rennie's also maybe running for a job there to take over some soccer. All right. You got some support here. Martin Rennie, Nigel Reid, Dwayne De Rosario. Great to have all three of you here. Thanks.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.